we wanted to bring in Robert McNally, he's president of Rapidan Energy Group. And Robert, it's good to have you with us. What was your reaction to the headlines overnight?
Thanks for having me, John. So, we have been telling clients after 20 years of dealing with this Iran nuclear program, this would be the year when either we end up with a deal with Iran, and President Trump really wants one, or a military solution, likely launched by Israel, which after 10/7/23 is just not willing to run the risk of a nuclear-armed or a near-nuclear-armed Iran. We did not expect the attack last night, let me put it that way, but we, like others, began to see the odds rising when the U.S. announced evacuations, the British warned maritime operators about risks. So there were indicators and warnings, and indeed, crude started to price in the risk even before last night. I think the premium so far, $7 to $10 all in, I think is appropriate. As I think one of your colleagues just said, what matters now about the next $7 or $10, whether it's up or down, is Iran. And will its retaliation remain limited to military targets in Israel proper, or will it expand? That, to me, is the most important unknown right now with regard to where crude goes from here.
And if you were trying to understand the political calculation from Israel's vantage point, just as an example, because, I think the key difference here is when you strike the facilities themselves, everybody always wondered, if you do that, what is the consequence of doing that? What do you think his political calculation was, both on the hand that Iran has to play right now, but in terms of this time versus a different point in time? Because at the end of the day, to your point, this is something that we've always wondered about. So what about the timing stands out to you?
I think the timing was right from Israel's perspective. First of all, after 10/7/23, again, they're unwilling to rely on deterrence and unwilling even to trust their own intelligence about getting advanced warning of Iranian attempt to break out to a nuclear weapon. That's number one. Number two, with President Trump in office, Israel feels it has an American president that will stand by and back up Israel if necessary, and that also did not want to see Iran get to a weapon. So I think Israel had a motive, had the means, and has been planning this for a long time. And I think it decided that Iran was very close to a wet breakout capability, that President Trump's diplomacy was not likely to succeed. Iran was refusing to give up domestic enrichment. There is some reporting that Israel may have detected an attempt by Iran to weaponize, to break out over the last year or so, and that may have motivated this. So those things came together. Final thing, John. Iran is prostrate after last year having lost Hezbollah and all its missiles in Lebanon, which was a strategic deterrent onto Israel, Syria, and losing its air defenses in last year's clashes. Iran was vulnerable to this type of attack. So all of those things came together, I think, to bring us to where we are today.
And then, the U.S. and Iran were meant to meet for their next round of the nuclear talks, I believe, on Sunday in Oman. And I'm not sure where things stand on that, but I believe Oman's comments described Israel's actions as reckless, would undermine regional security. Other Arab states seem to echo those comments, including Saudi Arabia. So what are you going to be watching closely from here on out, really, to sort of determine how other countries are approaching the situation?
Right. So it goes back to Iran's retaliation. If it is relatively measured in its retaliation, if it doesn't strike U.S. facilities, if it doesn't, or troops, if it doesn't strike energy production or flows from the Gulf, if it doesn't inflict mass casualties in Israel, I would call that limited. And as long as it's limited, there will be a diplomatic opening here. President Trump, I think, very much still wants Iran to sort of take this hit, retaliate in a limited way, and they get back to the table. Because at the end of the day, Iran does not enjoy escalation dominance. It can't win in a military escalation with Israel and the United States. So I'm thinking, and I think other actors in the region are hoping, that Iran will see that writing on the wall, will retaliate in some fashion that's limited, and then accept the reality that they have no choice really but to if they wish to survive,
Yeah.
but to arrest their program and come to some sort of diplomatic agreement.
I'm going to squeeze you here because we have less than a minute, but with oil prices where they've been, people maybe quickly forget. It was just a couple of years ago we were at like $120 a barrel. Where do you think oil prices could go, depending on how this plays out? Unfortunately, we only have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, you bet. So we think if there's only a limited response, we're going to go back to the 60s. We'll retrace a lot of this premium if Iran retaliates in a limited way. If not, if it inflicts mass casualties, if it hits energy infrastructure, it attacks the United States, or if it tries to break out to a weapon, we think we'll have a major conflict there. We think the interruption in the flows will last longer than the market expects. It will not be a cakewalk. It will not be the first Gulf War or the second Gulf War. No. And we think oil would have to go into the hundreds in that environment. If we lost that 19 million barrels a day of crude and products, most of spare capacity, we'd have recessionary oil prices. I think we'd see well into the $100 barrel range in that